Right back with more Normandy, the beginning and the end, using the Alone in the Storm, solo expansion, playing Scenario 1, patrolling the front. This is my part 19. Right, I get this feeling this part might just be a chat about some things. Hopefully I can still get some gameplay in, but I get the feeling this might go on a bit. Maybe. We'll see. Some bits I'm not really sure about to look for, but a situation that we left here, I'm just going to really be chucking a few things out there because I'm not sure how to deal with that. Anyway, I had a couple of comments. I had a message from Mike, and then also around about the same time I had a comment from John Brown on part 14. The message from Mike is Alone in the Storm part 13 or 14. I think he's not sure which one. He says, "Hi Grant, still with you on these videos. In one of the above parts you went through the HQ phase. I too am trying to play ALB, so that's Alas Barracadas or something, isn't it? Scenario 1, and I posted a question on BGG today. Yeah, and his question is about this whole situation in the HQ phase when you count objectives or victory points. And I did ponder on this. I'm pretty sure I still pondered on it the first time it came up, because that would have came up in turn 2, because it's all set. The rush value's set as rush 4 to start the scenario, so you don't check it until the start of the turn. So we've done it in turn 2, 3, 4 and 5 now. I'm pretty sure I talked about this myself, and wasn't sure if it was just because it words it as objectives. Hang on, let me read the rule. It says, count how many objectives are controlled by the AI side or their current victory points if the scenario doesn't include objective hexes. Now, I talked about this, I read it, and it says, well, that suggests that if you've got objectives, all you're doing here is counting objectives. That's all you're doing. Now, I chose to overrule that, and the guys have stepped in thinking, giving me their thoughts. So Mike carries on. He says, from reading the first paragraph of 6.2, it does ask you to analyse the number of controlled objectives on both sides. Yeah, it does. The first paragraph talks about to set the attitude for the AI, offensive or defensive, and the associated rush resistance value, you must analyse the number of controlled objectives for each side, the difference between the number of companies on the player and the AI side, as well as the number of turns remaining to end the game. So it doesn't technically mention victory points there at that bit. But the objectives are considered to be victory point. It says that you have to consider each one of these as one victory point when you're counting them from an AI point of view. And he carries on. It then goes on to explain how this is done, and point 1 states objectives or victory points. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I've talked about this on 2 or 3 occasions. He says, if you look at the adapted historical scenario book on page 28, in the heading it states the objective hexes to use. Yeah, is he talking about the scenario we're playing? Page 28. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I've been sure of that. Yeah, and we've got them marked with the things, and we've done all that. Yeah, I'm fine with all that, but and then he says, should you only be counting the objective hexes to determine rush resistance? It looks like you only use victory points if the scenario doesn't have objectives. I'm probably wrong, but I think it's worth drawing to your attention, kindness, Mike. No, I actually do believe the fact that you've come along right at the same time, and John Brown's mentioned that, and he highlights a couple of points as well. I think I should have spent a bit more care with this, and I did say that the way it's written in the rule book seems clearer to what it's written on the player aid, but John Brown brings up a good point with that as well. It does say objectives or victory points if there's no objectives in play, and we've stated there's objectives in play. I think the very first time I had to choose this, I did ponder on it and thought, should it just be objectives? And I think in the end I thought, well, I mean, look at the last couple that we've done. I feel like if we stop the game right now, the Germans have won. I mean, I think they have. But, however, I could well be wrong. Because, like I've said, this could be a 3, this could be a 4, this could be a 5. You know, and we're sitting on top of the 3 objectives. And that's loads of points. So, it could well be that it balances out here. But, so then, a few other things I started thinking, well, I started saying that it's resistance 6. So what would it be? What would it be now? So they're defensive. Germans are defensive. So in actual fact, there would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, they've got 4. So that's all we'd be counting regarding. Now, where's the rush resistance table? Here it is here. So, but however, the companies in that would be the same. But as for objectives here, it would be -4. So it would be up here. And that last time, I think we had a 3-2, didn't we? So it would be rush 3. That's what they would get. Now, okay, because I started thinking to myself, well, me being playing it this way, I feel like I'm getting destroyed, to be honest. So with these 2 comments that the guys have brought up, I'm thinking, well, okay, could it be that the game, I might not be getting so destroyed if I had done it that way? I'm not sure. Well, that does prove something, because they would be on rush 3. Now, remember, half of 3 is 1.5 rounded down to 1. They would only have 1 high activity level marker out of the 3. So there's a starter. There's a starter that gets you thinking, well, that would help me. That would help me as a player, as a human player. Now, the fact that they were on rush, they were still on offensive rather than defensive. Yeah, I mean, I could believe that is quite possibly how it's meant to have been played. I've got them, they're looking defensive right now, and it's not based on objectives. But the biggest bit that bothers me about this at all, and my reply was to, what was my reply to Mike? My reply is, hi Mike, I've pondered on this quite a lot, maybe more so in later videos that you haven't seen yet. I'm pretty sure the very first time this came up, I talked about it. But anyway, so I haven't seen yet. John Brown has also just brought this point up in a comment on part 14. I tend to think you may both be right, to be honest. I also noticed your question on BGG, and hopefully you'll get some reply to it. Yeah, he's got a question on BGG regarding the game he's been playing. But it's asking a similar question. Do you consider victory points and objectives? Or if there's objectives in the game, do you just consider objectives? So hopefully somebody answers that, and we will get the official wording of it. But I do feel now that the guys are probably right. I feel like I'm losing to the AI pretty badly, so could this be the reason? ? Also, one really weird thing that I feel is that the objectives are only a concern of VPs. Right, sorry. Let me read that. Also, one really weird thing I feel is that if the objectives are the only concern of VPs for the AI to consider in setting their attitude, which is the rush resistance, then why do they pay no attention to them? There's not the only talk of objectives for the AI is right. Is it up to 3 hexes away from an objective hex not controlled by an AI? This is a priority to see who activates first. So yeah, you activate him and you think, right, he's going to go and rush over and get that objective. No, he's not. I've still not came across any bit where it moves to an objective marker and take one. And did we not have the case just now? Well, in fact, I think that's where we're sitting waiting, aren't we? Because we stopped and we got confused about things. That there's an objective open there. One of these units could just move in there and take that. I don't think they're going to do that. They might do it accidentally by moving through the hex. That's the only way I can see. I don't think there's going to be any instruction. Now, I could be proven wrong. when we get round to moving it. But I've still not come across anything that says move to the objective hex. Mate, take that objective hex. So I think it was because of that I says, no, I'm not going to leave it just as counting the objectives, because the Germans aren't interested in them. They're obviously battering us about, taking step losses off us, which gain them victory points. So I'm going to lump them all together. But I think the guys are probably right, like I say. The way it's worded in the rulebook is quite clear. Anyway, and I'll finish by saying I'll talk about this and my latest issue as well. That's still to come. So let's get what John says. Right, so what I got from John Brown was a comment on part 14 at the 25-minute 45-second mark. He says, as you say, the wording in the rulebook is much more clear on this, actually. And he pastes out the step 1 and 2 from the procedures here. Should probably show you here. This is in the HQ phase. And 1 and 2 are about counting how many objectives are controlled by the AI side, and that or is what should tell me, and it did, it rung true with me at first. I thought, right, so it's or victory points if the scenario doesn't include objective hexes, and they do. They've got objective hexes. So, I suppose it is quite clear there. Why did I don't know. It was one of the things that I felt wasn't quite right. And just jump into his edit as well while we're there. His edit talks about that it's clearer in the rulebook. However, his edit is the fact that this says count control objectives / victory points earned by AI side. And his edit says also notice that it's a / oblique symbol on the blade, which is often board game shorthand for or. So, yeah, he's probably right there as well, that it's count controlled objectives or victory points earned by AI side. I could still see something come. I hope Mike gets his question answered, because it does. I think it would answer this as well. And I do think you're right, guys. I do. I suppose I'm kind of hoping not, because it kind of, it really makes a mess of the playthrough, doesn't it? Things would be totally different. Maybe I might not be in as bad a state. Anyway, carrying on what John says. He says, in other words, if the scenario has objectives, you count objectives. Otherwise, use each side VPs. And yeah, the way it's written there seems to be quite clear to that. And why I wasn't stronger in sticking by that, I don't know. I guess it was that combination of when I realised that it looked like the Germans needed to count their victory points, because they were going to be they've got no victory points, but maybe that's the intention. They've not got any objectives. But maybe that's the intention, so that it keeps them aggressive. It keeps them in an offensive mode, doesn't it? But if I seen them show any signs of moving towards taking an objective hex, I would maybe say, okay, right, they'll get there. They'll get around to taking objective hexes. I don't see them ending the scenario with any objective hexes. And I suppose that's what pushed me towards thinking that I surely have to include the victory points that they're gaining by taking out my guys. Anyway, he carries on. To me, the way the rulebook states it is more common sense, since the victory conditions for objective-based scenarios is number of objectives, not number of step losses. Okay. Fair. Yeah, again, it is an objective. It tells you in the scenario that there's objectives. That's what Mike linked to me was. And I know, the objectives are out there. It's not that I'm ignoring them, guys. They are there. 1, 2, 3, 4. The US have 4 of them. And there's this one down here that was closer to any German unit than it was any American unit. Has it been considered at all by the Germans? No. Again, I kind of thought, And what you say there could be true, John, but the way the AI's going about this game, it's more interested in just taking me out. It's getting its victory points from taking as much limbs and body parts out as it can, I think. So, well, he does then follow that up with mauling the opposing forces might help you to achieve that, but in the end, it's all about controlling those objectives, right? So, and again, my point about what are the AI doing then, really, you know, what are they doing? And I'm not going to go at you guys for this, I'm trying to work out what this is. But then John also adds this, it is weird how the rush resistance is determined during objective-based scenarios, but the AI movement rules don't seem to take objectives into account all that much. That all that much can be pretty much removed, I think. It's the only time, and my reply to him was basically saying that I think the only time I'm seeing them considering objective X's is when they want to look at it for priorities. That's the only thing I've seen. Anyway, I replied to John interested. I just received a message from Mike suggesting the same thing. I think you're both probably right. And then he mentions that it is weird how the rush resistance is determined. I say exactly. The AI have paid no attention to the objectives throughout this playthrough. All they have considered by them is in selecting priorities, but without moving to them. It's a bit baffling, that's all. Then he mentions his edit, which I give him a fair point to that. I told him Mike's posted a similar question, which might shine some light on it, but that's if he gets an answer. I also added to him, I'm losing badly to the AI in my playthrough, so I'm now starting to wonder if this might have anything to do with this, but wishful thinking, probably. And I said I'll talk about this when I start part 19, as I'm doing. So, I agree with you guys, but I'm frustrated by some of the things, and I think you can see, well, John's even mentioned that there about that it's weird it's weird how they even consider rush resistance for objectives-based scenarios, how they're, and then not paying them any attention at all. So there's something weird about all that anyway. But I do think you're right. I do think that I should have stuck with that in the rulebook, because the thing is, if I'd stuck with that in the rulebook, it clearly says objectives, count how many objectives are controlled by the AI side or their current victory points if the scenario doesn't include objective X's. This scenario does include objective X's, so I should not have been considering any other victory points from step losses. So, what do we do now? I'm not sure if I should attempt to adjust this going into the next turn. Have we started the turn? Yeah, we started first, didn't we? Well, I thought they started first this round. Didn't the Germans start? Yeah, they did start first. They started first, but they've got a 2 actions marker. That was it. So they went first. Then we went and finished. Yeah, so I can't really reset the start of this scenario. Well, I'll see what happens the next. You know what? The next round is next turn's turn 6, which is the last turn. So I think it'd be silly to try and change it for the last turn. So I'll probably just base it on the same thing. We'll see when I get to that. Right, that's only 19 minutes in. But I'm not done yet. I need to talk about something else as well. And that is this defensive line and overrun, defensive terrain. This is where we left things last night, when I was trying to, well, to be honest, I may have been blundering my way through this quite a bit, because I think if I read this again, my understanding that defensive terrain was anything that was above a 3. Now I'm going to get the terrain chart out here. That was above a 3 or higher, right? So when we look, of course, the thing that I wasn't considering here is there's different types of fire. So here's the AP fire, and this is what we're using in this scenario. Now, maybe I get away with it in this scenario because that's what I was looking at. And if you look at them, everything is defensive terrain apart from open hexes, which are a 2. However, when you come into artillery fire, right, now, again, I might be able to get away with this because we're only considering AP fire. When you go into artillery fire, you see that rough is a 2, white woods are a 2, fields are a 2, and when you look at AT fire, it's the same, isn't it? They're all 2s, the exact same ones are 2s. So there's a difference to determine what fire you are. I still feel like I've read something else. Oh, and there's some bits on the other side as well, isn't there? Beach sand is a 2 for AP fire. You can see gully would be a 2 for artillery fire and AT fire as well. And in fact, beach sands for AT fire as well. So there's a few 2s if once you take away from the AP, but like we say, that's what we're playing in this scenario, AP. But let's read defensive terrain again. Let's see what it says, because I'm not really grasping this too well. So it says add defensive terrain. So add defensive terrain. Now, I mean, that could be lost in translation a bit. I don't know. A defensive terrain is any group of adjacent hexes. So it's not specifically talking about a specific hex here. It's any group of adjacent hexes with a high terrain defense value divisor. So a high terrain, what is a high terrain defensive value divisor? Located next to any other terrain with a lower terrain defensive value, ideally an open terrain. So, okay, it's a hex. I mean, it says any group of adjacent hexes. So, does it have to be a group? Can it just be one hex adjacent to a lower? You know, that would have made it a bit clearer, but I'm not sure. So, what is high terrain defensive value, you ask? Well, it carries on here. Built-up areas, woods, and dispersed buildings are treated as high defensive value hexes. Sensor divisor against any FF type, and that's any FF type, right? So if we look on is at least 3, right? And if we look on this again, what was it? Built-up areas, woods, right? So there's woods. So if you look at there, it's a 4 there, it's a 3 there, it's a 3 there. So any one of them. So that's why light woods is not considered, because it's a 3 and a 2 and a 2 there. Dispersed buildings, 4, 4, 3. Yeah, that's high, whatever it is. Built up area, 5, 5, 4. But all the rest of these terrains can be 2s. It's got marsh there, 3, 3, and then nothing there. But fields aren't, because it's 3, 2, 2. So that's why it's only listing them. But it then goes on a bit further. So that's why it's listing them as high defensive value hexes. Since the divisor against any FF type is at least 3. Hexes with fortifications, MG bunkers, or trenches will also be considered as high defensive value hexes. So, and remember, a defensive terrain is any group of adjacent hexes with a high terrain defensive value. So, what it's saying there is, any fields together are not defensive terrain. That's what that seems to be saying to me. However, or white woods, right? Because white woods, and the reason I'm saying white woods is because I'm going to talk about white woods in a minute. White woods is in here, and if we look, yes, it's a 3 for AP, but it's a 2 for R and a 2 for AT. So that there is not at least 3 for each fire type, right? So therefore, it's not considered high defensive value, right? So therefore, it is not defensive terrain. Okay, well, going by that. However, the next paragraph starts not contradicting that, but having an exception to that. Because of this, in some scenarios, light woods may be considered defensive terrain if they are surrounded by open terrain with a lower divisor value and the forces occupying these hexes are attacked with APFF. Likewise, that same terrain will not be considered defensive terrain against AT or RFF. So it has to be considered if, depending on the fire that's coming into it. Where's our whitewoods again? You know, if it's getting fired upon by AP and it's got a clear hex adjacent to it, is considered defensive terrain, but not for artillery fire or anti-tank fire. I mean, come on, this is like a bit much. So anytime it talks about defensive terrain, it's any group of adjacent hexes with this high terrain defensive value located next to any other terrain with a lower terrain defensive value. That just feels like it's just a bit cumbersome, all that. Like, does it not feel a bit much to... I don't know. And just while we're there, because this comes into it a little bit as well, and I remember reading about this through, I think there's another section that talks about this defensive line. It might be within the actions about not moving out of defensive line, and it just feels a bit much as well. Defensive line and override. If at least 3 AI forces, now remember, an AI force is a company, an out-of-command platoon, or an intel marker, right? So, if at least 3 AI forces are located in adjacent hexes, they are considered a defensive line. Depleted companies and hexes with 2 or more routed combat platoons do not count for this purpose. The term first defensive line is applied to the defensive line located closest to the player's side starting edge of the board. Defensive forces from the AI side currently performing defensive movement orders will try to reinforce defensive lines. If a defensive line is overrun, they will perform a withdrawal order. Yeah, I mean... And the thing is, I think that withdrawal order that's an optional rule, I think. So I don't know, this looks a bit... I knew that was going to be a sort of thing that was going to bother me a bit. So, I mean, do they have 3 forces together? Well, quite possibly. That's 1. That's 2. No, these aren't joint together. But, see, these were joint together, and all 3 of them were part of one line. Maybe these shouldn't have actually moved away, but, you know, I don't know. Anyway, as for defensive lines, I wonder if is the defensive line part is that all part of an optional rule maybe during the game, because it's showing it's under. No, hang on. It's just after the special orders. It shows you an example of the first defensive line, but I don't think I'm going to even consider defensive lines for the moment anyway. Maybe if I get into it a bit more and understand it a bit more, let's not do that. Right, let's find where we were having issues regarding defensive terrain and the like. So, yeah, this is the reason this came up, wasn't it? Because I came across this note. This is the notes in the orders chart in the rulebook, where it says AI forces in defensive mode, right, which is what we are now, which is what the Germans are. Whether they should be that or not, it looks like I've got all that wrong, but let's just carry on as we've been doing, and if it's wrong, which it looks like it is, then we can fix that come the next scenario. We'll begin building an improved position instead of performing their assigned action. If they are in an AI objective hex, well, that was a no. In an adjacent hex, which is meaning adjacent to an AI objective, well, I think that's a yes, to be honest. I think that's a yes. Because I think all the objectives out there, even if they're controlled by the US or they're not controlled by the US, or even if they're controlled by the AI, I think that might mean that it's an AI objective hex. But I don't know. It could just mean that Is it an AI controlled objective hex? I don't know for sure. But anyway, so that could be right. Adjacent to AI platoons forming a defensive line, which I'm not going to go in. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there with this defensive line. Not until I've got a better understanding of this game. And then the last one was, or in defensive terrain. Okay? And this is what's opened up this can of worms. Because I then found out that, because I've been considering defensive terrain as anything with a 3. Right? And that, I'm sure I had read it like that somewhere, but I've clearly not been reading that properly. So in this map, we've got defensive terrain here, and there's a dispersed building there. That's defensive terrain. These woods hex. Well, when I say they're defensive terrain, they need to be. According to what it said was they need to be a group of hexes, not just one hex, a group. Defensive terrain is any group of adjacent hexes with a high terrain defensive value located next to any other terrain with a lower terrain defensive value. So like this, I suppose these two are a group. The woods here, there's 3 of them in fact, and they're surrounded by white woods, while that one's surrounded by open. So they are, I mean, why, I don't know. So they are, because they're a 4, that's a 5, and that's a 5. Right? Sorry, that one. The dispersed buildings. So these 3s, these fields and these white woods are not. However, in this scenario, because it's AP fire, if we're talking about in some scenarios, white woods may be considered defensive terrain if they're surrounded by open terrain with a lower divisive value, and the forces occupying these hexes are attacked with APFF. Man, I don't like this at all. So I mean, this isn't surrounded. It's not surrounded by open hexes, this white woods, but I would still like to think that it was defensive terrain compared to this. This is a 2, this is a 3. If it gets attacked by AP fire, now, can we not just say it's not a defensive terrain if it's going to be attacked by artillery or anti-tank or whatever one that gives it a 2? Can we not just have that? And it's the same with these fields. I mean, it's not mentioned fields here, but all these fields are a 3 for any AP fire. But then again, this field's hex here, is this defensive terrain, this field's, because it's surrounded by fields? So it's not, is it? This one maybe is because it's got adjacent, it's got open hexes adjacent to it. So maybe this one is, but I don't think this one is counted as defensive terrain. I just think they didn't need, well, I don't know. Is there a need for that? I mean, bearing in mind, this is just a solo rule stuff, right? This is not... I tried to find something in the main rules because I thought maybe that's where I'd read about it, but there's no... If you search for defensive terrain in the main rules, you get nothing. So, and then even the terrain, it tells you about terrain, but terrain effects, it just doesn't really give you anything in the main rules. The terrain effects chart tells you about all the you know, how good they are defensively and whatever, which makes sense. But so it's annoying, but I think it must be quite important for the AI to consider that, you know, yeah, it just seems to make it a bit fiddly, this. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'll start seeing that it's quite clear. I don't know. Okay, right, I'm 34 minutes in there. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do, so we were clearly going to activate this next. So let's take this off and try and complete a part here, because I've not got enough of time left. I did want to get a part in tonight just before I finish, so maybe I can move some things about and get this done. So this is Bravo Company of the Airborne, so his other half, let's make sure we get this right. I know I spotted the mistake that I'd made that time before when I fired with him, but fortunately, I'd looked back and there was no. It was still the same result. It was only a difference of one column, and it was still the same result. So, yeah. So but the problem here was we were trying to maybe. What were we going to do? Trying to build an improved position or something. Now. Alright, I've completely come away from that page. I was on that just a minute ago. No. Right, it must be on here. No, it's not in there, Grant. Right, here. Yeah. AI forces in defensive mode will begin building an improved position instead of performing an assigned action. Yeah, but we know they can't build improved positions in building texts. So does that not just rule these guys out? Yeah, I mean, he's in a building text, and so is he. Or a built-up area. So they can't do that. But what I guess worries me is when we come down to these. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. They maybe shouldn't be in defensive mode, and maybe that's... this is turning into a bit of a mess, I think. I don't want to just chuck this in. I mean, we're one turn away from... Well, just this turn and the two turns, really. This and the last turn in play. Just wonder if I can switch this. But then, Grant, you're going to have to learn about how they do things defensively anyway. You know, if it says that that's what they're wanting to do. Right, okay. Let's just carry on as things are. And look at these two. So these are having their second action, but these are in a built-up area. So that doesn't come into it, because they can't, although they're in defensive mode, they can't start to build an improved position in a built-up area. It can only be built in certain... because we looked that up, so it can't do that. So what is it going to do? We're looking for orders for these, yeah? I think that's why we got here. But what I'll need to keep in mind is the words defensive terrain now, because that is a different thing to what I thought of it at first. So, yeah, and this is where I got this. This is in here as well, isn't it? AI forces in defensive mode. These are the notes here. Yeah, okay. So we've got, right, look in there, we've got one platoon with one step loss, and it's stacked with a platoon with no step losses, and it's similar situation actually in the other building with it. So they're probably both going to do similar things. So they're both got one step loss. Well, sorry, that's not true. Let's look at this first. The one with the officer who's got one full strength platoon and one step platoon. One with one step lost. I guess they're probably going to do the same thing. Do they have something within 3 though? I know this came up as well, didn't it? I remember now, because these are within 3 of that, but not of that. Well, hold on. No. These act individually though, Grant. These act individually. So these two do have something within 3 and these two don't. Right. So the two that do, let's see what they are going to consider then. So one's no losses and one's got a loss. So the one without losses, which is the machine gun, does have up to 3 hex to a player platoon. So it's going to attack. No. It's going to roll, because remember this is its second action. So it's going to roll on attack /react. Now, right, the problem here with this is because I'm not using assault, how do I do that? Well, no, do you not just react, Grant? No, because I've got to roll. Well, hold on. No, I'm confused. If it's attacks, no, I'll look at the double order thing. Of course. Which is on the notes as well. So, double order, so it's going to do attack/react, right? So, double order, attack/react. AI forces with a high activity level in their first activation always attack, right? But this is not, they are high activity, but this is not their first activation. In other cases, a roll 1d10 if there is a chance for the AI force to attack. If there is a chance for the AI force to attack, well, no, there's not, is there? If it means attack right from where it's sitting, no, but remember, the orders can get given to attack and then it starts moving, so that's a bit meh. If the result is greater than 4, all AI platoons attack. All AI platoons attack. Modified die roll by +2 for attacks with MFF and -1 for each player company not marked as finished, located within 3 hexes. If the AI force cannot attack and is not located in defensive terrain, it performs a defensive movement. What happened to the react? What happened to the react? Why is react there? Right, what does it say in the rulebook there? If the AI force cannot attack and is not located in defensive terrain, it performs defensive movement. I don't understand that. Why has it got the words attack or, like John says, this means or. Attack or react. There's no mention, like this double order, which is what we're looking at, attack or react. It's either going to attack or it's going to perform defensive movement. Where's the react to it? Well, the only bit I can take out of that, if the AI force cannot attack, which it can't, and it's not located in defensive terrain, well, let's just say it is located in defensive terrain. What does it do then? Because if it's not in defensive terrain and cannot attack, it's going to perform defensive movement. Is that when it puts a reaction marker on it? If it cannot attack and is located in defensive terrain, surely it would have said something like that. I'm really starting to struggle with this game, I think. It doesn't help that it looks like I've come across something that I've been doing wrong from the start. Well, from turn 2 onwards. No, that doesn't help. It makes me feel like things could have went totally differently, and maybe that's why I'm getting such a beating as well. But also, that doesn't... The Germans haven't cheated as such, and they're still beating me down, but... Well, would they have had 3 high-level activity markers, though, Grant, every turn? That's a point. I don't know what to do here, because I do not understand why that is saying attack/react, and then it tells you there, and there's no mention at all about react. The only bit that I can pick out of that is, like I say, if it was in defensive terrain, then it gets marked for reaction. But I feel like it should have said that, because if the AI force cannot attack, it's not and it's not located in defensive terrain, it performs a defensive movement. So let's look at who we're looking at here. It's the machine gun underneath here. Now it can't attack. No, it can't see. Yeah, it can't see anything. That's a problem, because remember, it's got a range of 3, which is 1, 2, 3, 3, but it can't see. It can't see across the blockage. If it was in there, it'd be able to see them, and it can't see through this building, this built-up area. Sorry, I'm maybe not showing you the guys. No, right. It can't see through that, so it can't see anything. So it can't attack. Now, is it in defensive terrain? Well, you know what? It is. It is in defensive terrain. Because that is a built-up area. Now, this whole... I think I'm going to stick by my whole thinking of the defensive terrain and really consider this as, hell, I don't know. I don't think you really can't consider this as defensive terrain unless it's adjacent to open terrain. But why can't I consider that as defensive terrain then? Because it's got that round about it. Well, this one definitely is, because it's in a 5 and it's got 3s round about it. So the fact that it is in defensive terrain, should I just mark that with a reaction marker? I feel like I'm just making things up again, but does he get marked with a reaction? And the platoon that he's with, is that not just going to be the same anyway, Grant? That's one step. Yeah, because we're not rolling a dice. We're attack/reacting. They're going to do the same, even though they've got one step loss. I really don't know if this is anything like what's right and what should be done. It can't attack anything, and it's in defensive terrain. So if it wasn't in defensive terrain, then it's one to perform defensive movement. So fair enough. Because it is in defensive terrain, we just mark it with reaction then. I'm just guessing, honestly. Okay. Let's I'm just wanting to just wrap this up, and I don't know, I'm feeling a bit down about things now, I think. I don't know if I'm playing things right. I mean, this whole thing that's been brought up, fair enough. Yeah, I would change that. But there's so many other things that I'm just not sure I'm doing right. Okay, the rest of these guys, right, these are the same. They're not... I get the feeling they're just going to be marked for reaction as well then. They're the same thing, aren't they? No, hold on. They've not got platoons within 3. So that's a difference. That's possibly not. So one of them's without losses. Do they have platoons in spotting range placed at 4 hexes away? Maybe 4 plus hexes away, or 4 or greater hexes away. Is that, what is that? Equal to or greater than 4 hexes away. Well, I'm just looking at them. No, these aren't in spotting range, Grant, because we've not got line of sight on them. So no. So they're actually out of spotting range, and one of them's a platoon without losses, so it's going to be that. And one of them's a platoon with losses, so it's going to be exactly the same. Well, no, it's... Well, that's a mistake then. Because that one says 1 to 5 advance, 6 to 10 react. That makes sense. 1 to 4 advance, 6 to 10 react. So that should either... It should either be that should be a 5 or that should be a 5. So advance or react. Yeah, we can roll the dice for this though, can't we? Yes, we can. So, do I think I want to feel that this is maybe 5 to 10 react, because I feel like it should be different to that one. Does that make sense though? That means a less chance of them advancing. That makes sense, doesn't it? Because they've got 1 step loss. Okay, so the platoon without the step losses, we're going to roll on it first. That's a D10, yeah. So a D10 roll, right? So we're rolling on that. 1 to 5, they're going to advance. 6 to 10, they'll react. 5. Right, so they're going to advance, and let's just do the other one while we're there. So that's 1 to 4 advance, and my guess is 5 to 10 react. Yes. They rolled a 3 as well, so they're all going to advance. Yes, they are. So what does that mean then? Yeah, so these want to advance. So, well, they're marked for reaction. We've done with them. We just want to get the advance flowchart. And that's a different flowchart, isn't it? Where is it? That's assault. You know what? I think it's on the back of this. It is. Okay. Right, well, I think we've done this before, but let's just see where this takes us. So remember, we've got the officer, and we've got a platoon with 1 step loss and a platoon without. So, but hold on, Grant, they're all going to do the same thing. Yes, they're all going to do the same thing. They've all been marked for the same order. So we can go through this as everything in the hex, can't we? Right, so advance / defensive movement order from K chart. Was that K that we were at? Yeah, it was. That was the orders, yeah. On the other side. So, okay. May attack with MFF without moving. Right, well, no. It can't. They can't attack anything. May perform a safe assault. Well, we're not doing assaults, so no. Right, so select a target. Yeah, this is the one I got wrong right at the beginning, wasn't it? So select a target. So for advanced movement, you can see across there it's got defense movement and what is described as a target. But we've got advance. So target, it says the closest hex with the AI force may attack with MFF. And divisor is 3, 4, 5, or 2 if it cannot be attacked with MFF. Or make a safe assault. We're not doing assaults. In defensive mode, they will only advance. Right, this applies here. Defensive mode, they will only advance towards hexes with a higher divisor value. Okay. I wish that was reworded. But higher divisor value. It can't get higher than 5. We're in a 5. Can it go to the same? No, it doesn't say that, Grant. It says higher. Right, hang on. Advance. This is advanced movement, isn't it? There's a bit on this. It's near the back of the book, this, I think. Movement. Advanced movement. When in defensive mode, resistance greater than 0, AI forces only advance towards higher divisor hexes. Well, it says in the rulebook that way as well, so I can't get higher than a 5. I don't think there's anything higher than a 5. Built up area, 5. That's it. So that means it can't move. Trenches are a 5 as well, but they're a 5 as well. They're not higher than a 5. They will only advance towards hexes with a higher divisor value. So what do I do now? I'm starting to get annoyed. I don't know, the previous to that was to just mark them for reaction as well then, but I mean, if they can't select a target, what's to say we've selected a target, which is nothing. Safe movement, no placed in defensive terrain. I don't know. I seem to be finding things all the time now that are bugging me and confusing me, and the other worry is I could go and start asking questions out there, but I'm not going to get answers, I'm afraid, which is a shame. I'm particularly not going to get answers about the solo expansion in the game. I don't think I'm going to get clear answers. I mean, okay, I don't know. I mean, to be honest, the very first question I put out there, although somebody had a bash at answering it, the designer, if he was going to come on, surely would have looked at that and corrected the guy, because the guy must have got it wrong, because it says in the rules you put these markers on it, and that was the very first one that I asked, I think. I don't know what to do. In defensive mode, they will only advance towards hexes with a higher divisor value. Well, you could be saying here, well, Grant, you shouldn't be in defensive mode, because if you've been playing it right, maybe I should just scrap this. You know, maybe that's what I should do. Thing is, do I feel like coming and trying scenario 2? I'm going to put a reaction marker on that, because the initial... No, it wasn't an attack reactor, was it? Was it? Oh, it was. The other half of the die roll was react. And I can't really find anything that I could do in that flowchart. If I've got to move to somewhere higher than a 5, I can't. So there's nothing more to be said there. Yeah. Yeah, I think even going and playing the next scenario with... Is it on the back of this thing? It might be, actually. That's scenario 2, German counter-attack. It's got a mortar, some kind of wagon thing, trucks. I don't know. I mean, if I'm not getting some of the things in this, I don't know. I think I'm going to wrap this part up now at the moment, and thing is, I'm just coming to the weekend, and well, I do have a few things on, but I'm still going to be able to get something done. But I don't know. I'm going to pop this last part out here and maybe sit and ponder a bit about things, and I I don't feel comfortable to try to finish the scenario either, because how things are playing out, and that could well be because I blundered with the Rush resistance, and that's maybe why things are going wrong. But even the things that I'm trying to do here, I'm not understanding. I'm not grasping them. I'm not finding it clear. It's frustrating me, because that on top of it, clearly I've been doing things wrong. So, and yeah, I'd like to be able to sort of say, well, we've only got one more turn to go after this. Can you not just carry on with it? Well, but I feel like I'm doing things that I'm just guessing here. Because, I mean, these guys are going to do... Well, actually, no, he will probably attack this, won't he? But this is out of range as well, so what's it going to do? Well, it's not in the building stuff, so... Nah. Okay, well, I'll sleep on it and see. To be honest, there's a possibility this might be the last part. I might just scrap this, because... I don't feel good about how things are going. It's a shame. I wish there was a bit better support there, that we could go and ask these things. But I guess it's just that was a worry to me. I did feel that there might not be the support there for the game. Should probably upload the rest of my videos to BGG, but I mean, I did upload the first 2 or 3, I think I did. I've been neglecting them. And, if you've uploaded 1 or 2, then, because some people might not be following my YouTube channel, which is fair enough, but if I post the actual... I mean, I've posted these on the Normandy the Normandy page. Now, my understanding is you can only post them on one, but I think that would be the better place to put them. I think that was the right place to put them, rather than Alone in the Storm, because I think more people are going to look at that page than Alone in the Storm, but maybe that was wrong, I don't know. Okay, I'll have a wee think of things, but the fact I'm off over the weekend... Well, you know what, this isn't a big footprint of a game. I suppose I could shove it off to the side and set something else up if I really felt like I wanted to do something different. I did start thinking about different things, but I've still got the other games set on the other tables, so I mean, I could just go to them, try and get them moving again. I'll think things over and see where we go. What I will do is try and look through all the... I've got part 18. Well, this is part 19, isn't it? Yeah. So I should get these watched tomorrow, because I'm travelling in and home on the train tomorrow to work, and it's about an hour journey either way. So I've got 2 videos to watch, so I should be able to watch them both, and then I'll get them out there. If anybody watching's got any ideas, any suggestions, I know Hal made a comment recently, feeling like I was doing things right, and hopes that I carry on, in particular moving on to the next scenario, which brings in bringing in all the rules that maybe I should have been bringing in for the start anyway. I'd like to do that, but I think some of these things are hanging me up. So, if you do want me to continue, maybe if somebody can try and resolve the hang-ups that I'm getting, maybe. Okay, I'll leave it for now, and we'll see how it goes. And I'll be back at some point. Okay, cheers.